Well, greetings adventurers and adventuresses from all across the wilds of internet land. Welcome back to Tales from the Jungle Cruise. Alright, my vacation is over, yay! Thanks for bearing with us while I took a little trip up to the amazing greenness that is Seattle, Washington. 2 weeks of rain, green, and beer, and it was awesome. Now, most awesome of all was that I got to spend about 8 hours of my time up there chatting with Jungle Cruise skippers. So over the next 6 or 7 weeks, you're going to get to hear a sequential unveiling of the time that was had in Seattle. Now, it all starts at a little bar in the West Lake Union district of Seattle with a skipper we knew as the Boy of Summer, Skipper Matt Nerrie. Now, Matt was the casual temporary of the jungle, which meant that every year he'd stroll onto the dock and we knew that summer had begun. So Matt and I kicked back some beers, had a delicious lunch, and recounted our time at Jungle. Now, what else do we have in store for you? Next week, we join the adventures of Skipper Mike Robles' return to the Jungle Cruise as our first return guest. Now, he's joined by, drumroll please. Wait, drumroll. Where's my stinking drumroll? Okay, the drumroll machine is broken. Now, where did I put the receipt? This thing is still under warranty. Anyway, Mike is joined by Skipper Adam Rotella, which is very exciting to anyone who worked in the early noughts, or anyone who uses the phrase early noughts. Never mind. We had a fantastic time taping, and there's a lot of surprises coming there as well. Alright, so here's the major disclaimers and warnings. The entirety of my time spent in Seattle was spent in bars, mostly with other skippers. If, for some unknown reason, you haven't figured out that this podcast occasionally uses foul language, tells stories that border on the edge of Disney magic, and is most emphatically not for kids, well, you have been warned again. This is Tales from the Jungle Cruise, not a journey into Storytime, featuring the Storytime canal boats. We're going to be indulgent and fun, and maybe we'll have a contest at the end of it for the person who correctly identifies the number of adult beverages consumed in the duration of taping these episodes. Oh, and one more thing. If you haven't already, go over to Joey and Trevor's podcast and listen up. They've got new episodes, they're great, and Trevor and Joey are two of the finest examples of humanity that you'll ever find. Go listen. Joey and Trevor on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. Now, finally, we're going to go into this episode all tiki style. Happy 50th anniversary to Walt Disney's Enchanted Break Room. Tiki Room. Well, not really. Okay, but this is close enough. It's time for Johnny Aloha's Enchanted Lavapalooza Tiki Room.
Come on. So this new place, we actually close. We don't see any patients from noon to 3 every day.
Yeah.
So, I'm forced...
You're forced to go out and have a nice afternoon.
Right, and it's funny because you almost have to leave work to not stay and do work at work.
All right.
Kind of like, I'm gonna take a task now, but for my task, I'm gonna stay in the shipping office the entire time. It's not really a break, but it's a break. But it's not really.
I always love that once an hour we get that rotational break.
Yeah.
They started making it so that you weren't allowed to have a break.
Right.
It's like, okay, you get 2 a day on an 8-hour shift, but the other hours you got to go
and do a task.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go move strollers from the entrance of the Jungle Cruise to Fantasyland.
The task is very seldom. Let's go have a beer or a burger.
But that's way more fun.
It is much more fun. So, how long have you been up in the beautiful confines of Seattle, Washington?
Moved up here in July of 2007, so that was almost 6 years ago.
You were, I don't think, you weren't there when I came back on the second run. And I'll splice this part into that, hey guys, we're in Seattle, beautiful, sunny, gorgeous, no rain in sight, Seattle, talking to a...
No, it's gloomy and rainy.
Yeah, don't move here.
No,
don't
it's
bring
terrible,
your money or
no
your
one
economy.
should come here. Business trips, yes, but residents, no, there's no available housing. It's too expensive. Live everywhere else.
It looks like it got ripped out of the pages of Dwell magazine. It's gorgeous. There's more nice lofts. LA is awful to live in.
Well, and we are in the bosom of Amazon.com right here. Literally, this is the bosom building there.
It's actually the Amazon strip club. There's actual bosoms.
Yes.
There's actual bosoms. So anyway, Skipper Kyle is always chatting with... I made a mistake. I called someone an ex-skipper the other day, and there are no ex-skippers. There are just people who are no longer employed by Disneyland.
I would like to call myself a recovering skipper.
Recovering skipper.
Yeah, like you're always an addict. You're never not an addict. You're just in recovery. So I'm a skipper in recovery.
So Skipper Matt Nerrie, everyone. So is your... since you're on that topic, how does you... Did you find a woman who can put up with this? Because it really is a mental... They just came out with a new volume of the DSM,
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, I believe.
That is exactly what it means. So you have 100 points on the board now with your knowledge of general trivia. Let's go for the 200-point level. Did you find someone who can put up with this crap? Because I just did. I just got engaged, in the fall of last year. Does she tolerate you, or does she have the same sense of humor? Or?
She does more than tolerate. She embraces me.
Is that to stop you from talking?
No, it's usually to stop her from talking. No, we actually were one of the few success stories of eharmony.com.
Thank you so much.
It was a magical day. I was 45 minutes late for our first date to a bar. I had run into... We were playing the University of Notre Dame the next day in football, and I ran into someone that I'd been talked to on the phone for a long time. Finally meet him face to face, and run into him on the way to meet her. Then I get lost, so I'm about 45 minutes late. And as it turns out, a big talking point for us and something we had in common. She grew up here, just north of Seattle, in a little town called Marysville. And her family and father, very particularly, cheers, sir.
Oh, cheers! Absolutely, clink.
So I'm 45 minutes late for our date, and she actually, similar to myself, she enrolled in the college program out of Washington State University with the great Walt Disney Company. So she went to Florida during my...
So she was in the Florida program, and you were in the Anaheim program.
Yes, the college program in California is much, much, much smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Than, I don't know if you've talked to Mark Duas.
I have. Mark is a current employee, so sadly...
So he's
he's untouchable.
Oh.
It's
That's too sad for the gay community and Mark.
You know what? Mark's a great guy. I
like Mark a lot.
I think he just went into emerging leaders.
Really?
Something. He just moved up in some way, shape, or form.
I know he opened
fantastic.
Luigi's Tire Factory or whatever that attraction's called. Anyway, so Mark did the college program in Florida. So Jane went out and did the college program in Florida, so and she worked in outdoor vending in Tomorrowland, which is where I got my start. So at Disneyland. So I started in vending at 16.
So you had parallel lives.
Yeah.
This is sounding like a Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, it's I was late. When I get there, she's like, "Oh, I have to go pick up my buddy from work in 45 minutes." Okay, 3 hours later, we're still hanging out at the bar. He took a cab home.
I just feel like they were star-crossed lovers, two different coasts.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put some reverb on that later. That'll sound kick-ass.
That'd be nice. Coming soon to a theater near you.
I wonder if that guy who does all the movie theater trailers, like his wife gets sick of him at the, what's for dinner?
Do you think he talks like that at home,
I think he does. I think he talks like that all the time. I think it makes foreplay really awkward.
Yeah?
A little sweet talk with his wife.
Do you think he just breaks it out at random times? He'll, get in a cab. Where to, son? I'd like to go. He just breaks into it.
I think it'd be awesome if he had had a midlife crisis or whatever and then became a priest. Because couldn't you imagine breaking out the world will end tomorrow voice doing a sermon? Not that I've been in church in 20 years.
He would probably have very good attendance.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Masses.
That'd be top notch.
Yeah, I think so.
So by the way, the beer is stellar.
Excellent.
It's super, super good.
Great.
Mine too.
Excellent.
I don't know if you're
Did you go wrong?
PBR. Are you a stout guy at all?
Yeah, I like it all.
Oh, this shit's amazing.
What was it? It was
this
the
is
Pothole Filler
Imperial Stout.
From House Sound.
Yeah, from
Squamish.
Squamish, BC. 9% alcohol, which
Good
at 1 o'clock in the afternoon is the proper amount.
Yeah, I concur.
So, but it's funny. I actually met my lady on OkCupid.
Okay.
Which is
Cupid.
the OkCupid is kind of the it's like the nerd version of what eHarmony is for Christians. Because eHarmony is a very strong, there's a very big presence. I don't know if you knew that.
In the Christian community.
Oh yeah, eHarmony
What about Christian Mingle? Isn't that the?
Is that? J-Date or
No, J-Date is
Jewish,
for members of the tribe.
Yeah. No, but actually eHarmony has really strong selection filters toward particular Christian,
Really?
breakdowns. And I applied. I actually got a letter from eHarmony saying that they could not find me a match.
No.
They sent me this form letter basically saying, we're sorry, at this time we have no matches for you on our service. Which luckily that's before you pay any money. But yeah, I didn't match up.
Wow.
So I was a failure. But I was OkCupid's a percentage thing.
Okay.
So I was a 97% match with my fiance.
Okay. So much more How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah. I'm kind of one. Yeah. Hold on, you met my mother?
I haven't.
How did that work out?
No, you met my mother apparently.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a family resemblance though. Other than the incredibly blonde hair,
the paleness, the heavy,
yeah.
Comes from many grilled cheeses at the in between.
Hey, you know what? We're doing grilled cheese at our wedding reception.
Good for you.
6 different kinds of grilled cheeses, 500 bottles of craft beer.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a terrible time.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of an awesome little. I've been joking with Chris Hames that we should run a contest on the podcast so that someone can come to the wedding from the audience. So, because it's funny. Each episode in a 12-year lifespan, you'll have about 2,500 people that will listen to this.
You've been going for 12 years?
No. That's what I'm saying. For each episode.
Okay.
So when you spread that out, so we're about 150,000 total downloads, but 40 episodes right now. Started with Benny and Kaz.
Okay.
So they started. I've had a lot of people. You should listen to it. It's a good time.
I had to drive to the lovely Tri-Cities of Washington, Richland, Pasco.
Wait, there's a lovely Tri-Cities of Washington?
It's the typical skipper sarcasm.
Yeah.
Of which I was very
to
good
our left,
at.
we'll see a nuclear power plant.
Yeah. So driving out there, didn't want to listen to the radio, didn't want to burn data on my phone, so I downloaded all the podcasts.
Very cool.
And I got to listen to the entirety of Adam Tyler.
The Adam Tyler one was a lot of fun. We actually met in a bar.
Yeah, and there was a motorcycle rally apparently going on
the
street.
It was the worst sound quality I had my entire time taping. So
and his trainer was actually Kelly.
Was it Kelly Pitts?
Yes.
Kelly Pitts York.
Yes, Kelly York. And I got trained the same weekend as Adam with Brian Vestal, who is known for his Vonage commercial back in the day. I actually looked him up the other day on IMDb, and thank you. You're welcome. And that guy was a trip. He thought he was Maynard. And
see, I don't even think Maynard is Maynard anymore.
No, he's not. We were on vacation in California for a wedding last week, or week before last. And I had not been to the park since I got walked out, which I'm still angry about because I wanted to keep my ID and all that shit.
Wait, a Jungle Cruise skipper getting fired? How?
No, I didn't get fired.
You
I got
just
walked out on
your,
my last day.
On your last, okay. So you actually had the official last day.
This is all delicious up here.
It is. It's all the mustards and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean they're known for their pretzels, so you throw mustard on a pretzel and.
We should plug. We're at Brave Horse in South Lake Union in Seattle.
Come here.
We should
delicious.
do a skipper restaurant review as our next podcast we're doing. Eat like a skipper.
Shitty and with beer.
So, I was a product of Amanda and Kaz. Because Kelly...
Amanda Case now Amanda Case. Amanda Taylor.
Yep.
Oh.
So, we basically... Kelly had to call out on the first day of training.
Okay.
So,
let it go.
Amanda took over our training group that had myself, Greg Riley, who was my last person I had on the show. I had him on the last few weeks.
He recently changed jobs, right? He was with JetBlue for a long time.
No. Greg's a teacher. Riley's a teacher.
Oh, I'm thinking of Greg Morales.
Yeah. Yep. No, so Riley's a teacher. He's actually moving back to California.
Where does he currently reside?
Chicago.
Oh.
So in that cold, nasty, horrible place where... So eating on a podcast about the most boring thing ever.
Yeah, so I downloaded a bunch, listened to the entirety of the Adam Tyler. and listening to him talk about the courtship of Allison just cracks me up because those two girls almost
was it
got
pretty
me.
was it pretty accurate though?
Yeah. Those two girls got me in almost got me in a heap of trouble.
By the way, for those of you who don't know, go back a few episodes. Skipper Adam Tyler had a pair of groupies. That's not a nice way to say it, but they were.
Well, and they weren't initially just groupies of Adams. They were groupies of
the ride.
Of the ride in the summer of 2000, I think, was when it went down. And it was just weird. They both lived in Lake Havasu. They were both probably 16 at the time, and moderately attractive for 16-year-olds.
More than moderate. I mean, they as they blossomed to womanhood, they are both lovely women. But I mean, it's tough though because when you're 18 or 19, you're a skipper, and you get girls who are 17. It's that weird fine line to not cross.
Yeah,
I was 30 when I was working there, so I didn't have that problem. So, as you may not remember any of the girls I dated.
I don't. So backtracking a little bit.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, we take vacation down to Southern California to see my folks.
Yeah.
Go to one of my wife's friends' weddings in downtown LA, which was awesome. It was in the converted penthouse at some hotel downtown. Awesome. She was
the Oviatt?
Yeah.
The Oviatt? That's where Chris Hames got married.
In the top?
Like about 4 weeks ago.
No shit. It's awesome.
3 or 4 weeks ago he got married up there as well.
That's weird. I'm gonna have to call that guy.
In the Disney realm.
He's all skinny now too, isn't he?
I don't and this is
like
yeah, well I think that he lost what we gained. Well, although actually I'm sitting 60 pounds lighter than when I was at Disney.
Yeah, I'm probably about 40.
Yeah, I mean I was sitting around 300 when I was in a size 54 pant, and I'm down to a 38 right now. So
we gave a rock.
Yes, there was knuckle bumping there.
Yeah,
which
it's very manly.
Yeah, I don't have that much testosterone normally. It's kind of a rare thing for me.
Yeah, I think in my height when I was in vending, I think I was squeezing my ass into like a 48.
So when did you start? What was your starting year?
So I got hired in October of 1998 into outdoor vending because the hiring manager was my sister's college program director. My sister was a recruiter in the college program in Southern California.
Oh, nepotism.
So luckily, I tried to get hired. So I turned 16 in the end of May, so I tried to get hired that summer. They didn't have the staffing need for 16-year-olds because the limits are very, very high.
Yeah, they only have a certain number of people who they bring on.
So I went in after summer, got hired, got trained, worked New Year's Eve 98, New Year's Eve 99 in vending, and it was miserable. I hated outdoor vending, but it was the way to get in.
So I was there for the 99-2000 rollover night on New Year's Eve. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking to be there on that night.
It was brutal. Because I was under 18, we had to be off before 12:30.
Yep.
And with the walk times, I got released or whatever you want to say at 11:30.
Yeah.
But the outdoor vending warehouse is behind Splash.
Yep.
So trying to get to
anywhere.
Backstage was okay.
Yeah, but trying to get across Main Street.
Trying to get across Main Street.
I wouldn't have bothered. I don't think one of the few stories that I have that I haven't rehashed because my memory sucks so much that I tell the same stories over and over. I was there the New Year's Eve rollover night to 2000, and a lot of people of a certain age group may not remember that 13 years ago, this was pre-internet.
Yeah.
This was the night that the world was supposed to end. We were expecting that all hell was going to break loose, and that every computer was going to fail in the world, and that we would be plunged into a state of anarchy on the world like the world has never seen before. So, expecting that the world was going to end, everyone apparently came to Disneyland. And the management made what is, I think, one of the dumbest decisions possible. Yeah, it's really good. I think management made one of the dumbest decisions that they have. Now, I mean, there are others, like, the 24-hour Disney days
they're open. Yes, I just saw that.
They did that on a grad night. So the park was open 24 hours with an extra 30,000 kids in the park for grad night. Not the smartest, but it's awful. So anyway, the management, and this is pre-California Adventure, decides that they are not going to stop entrance at main gate. So the park, which normally on a solid day, and I try to talk about these numbers, but it was probably 10,000 people over what it should have been.
I think the capacity is somewhere around like 90,000-ish.
That's 70-ish. I don't think it's in the 90 range.
Really?
I think it's in the 70 range. But
okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was a solid 10,000 people more than there should have been. And there was a delay in Phantasmic that night. So Phantasmic lets out right as the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock fireworks hit. So before all the countdowns. Main Street becomes a knot. No one can move.
Right.
It's literally bodies pressed against bodies to a level that I've never seen in the resort. And then
were you in as a guest?
I was in as a guest.
So you were with the masses of silly people.
Oh yeah,
that thought
I was
it was
in
a great
masses of
idea.
people because I had an annual passport or something at that point. I think I might have gotten I don't remember what it was, comp ticket. And the point I knew that there was a problem was when the stroller got thrown through the window on Main Street.
Holy shit.
Because no one was able to move, and it literally bodies pressed against bodies. There were ladies getting groped. There were kids underfoot. And management didn't respond to it quickly enough to get people off of Main Street.
Right.
And we were probably half an hour in that position.
Jeez.
And I
just deadlocked on Main Street, unable to go anywhere.
Yeah, it was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had in the park. It was pre-hire. It was, and I hired a California Adventure, spent a year or so, came over to Disneyland, worked jungle, a whole bunch of. So, but when did you jump from outdoor vending to the real jobs?
So the real jobs. So the kind of the cutoff was they couldn't have minors working in attractions was kind of the problem. So the reason I went into vending first was to become a cast member, so you could kind of get the inside track. So I spent the next 4 months trying to get a hold of someone in foods, not in outdoor vending. Maybe it was a higher up manager in foods. I remember at the time the office was at the end of the men's upstairs locker room back behind Space Mountain, way, way, way deep. I did have a locker at one point in time. As a casual temporary, I had a locker, which I loved so much. So I go back there to meet with someone, I don't remember her name, and basically pestering her to get a hold of someone because I didn't just want to transfer to attractions. I wanted to transfer and get trained on the Jungle Cruise. I didn't want to go work on the routes. I didn't want to go work in Tomorrowland. I wanted to get trained on the Jungle Cruise. So pester all spring, going into my junior year of high school. Finally, things end up working out, and I get trained in the middle of June, beginning of June in 2000. And I had Benjamin Raymond Lemaster III as my on-site trainer.
The very famous man.
It was back in the days of Harbor House.
Yep.
Not too many people remember that instead of the Harbor Point. And my co-trainee, Brian Vestal, was late, so we had to go get a costume change of some nature. So Benny and I sat at Harbor House just waiting for Brian to get his costume figured out. And the first thing he does is show me his senior high school picture of him dressed as Dorothy. So I knew I was going to be in for a treat for a few days. And then had a great training with Brian and Benny, and then just really started getting after it. So it was 13 years ago.
It's funny that one of the
probably about today, I would imagine. What's the 17th, 18th today?
Something like that. The interesting thing that I hear about Jungle that I don't hear about any other attraction. When I came to Disneyland, this was where I wanted to work. There are only maybe, I can think of 2 other attractions in the park that get that. You want to guess what they are? I think there's one that might rival Jungle.
Pirates of the Caribbean?
Pirates is one. I think Mansion.
Yeah.
I think people get into the Mansion mystique, and I think people look at working there, and then they get in there and realize it's like a goth treadmill. It's like a goth exercise camp. My theory is that they put as many ladies in their 50s and 60s there as possible to terrify guests. That's how, they're going to look in that time. Because for some reason, they seem to put a lot of the older cast members at Mansion.
Yeah?
I've noticed that for some reason.
And the bustier cast members at Pirates.
But the corsets are gone, way gone. Of course, it's made an exit in like
It's
04.
a sad day.
It was, because if you're going to put your best foot forward, I think that
Put your best teat forward.
well, I think there was a type of woman who looked great in that costume, and I think it really amplified most any woman who was working on that attraction's costuming needs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they quit hiring the pretty girls over into Fantasyland years ago. So
Quit actually casting cast members.
yeah, they used to only pretty girls in Fantasyland. That was the 70s. Was all the blondes,
Oh yeah,
skinny blondes would work in Fantasyland
in Lederhosen on Matterhorn and
Matterhorn or Storybook. And,
yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, there's these stupid equal opportunity laws that make it so that in some positions you can't hire just based on looks.
When the union gets involved and that's all complicated. And
See, and I don't get it because you're in a performance role in attractions. Maybe outdoor vending, I can understand.
and some attractions more than others. I mean, when you're on the routes, you're not really doing much. You're realistically a button pusher. You have very little minimal interaction with guests. But if you're on, and I hate to go along with cliche, but on the west side, so much more than on the east side. But I mean, that's kind of how it used to be. There's so much more guest interaction. There's so much more theming, where people want the interaction. Where in Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, like you're there to experience what's there, not the people that are there.
Right. It's funny. I will guarantee that any of the Twitter feeds that do podcast reviews, this will be the takeaway. That they'll be like, which attraction has the ugliest cast members? Listen to the Jungle Cruise this time. And let's be honest, it really, there are some places that I think Toontown, they hide all of the lesser attractive cast members.
Yeah, Toontown's not great.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh.
Main Street, actually.
Main Street.
I mean, it's kind of, it's...
Main Street stores was always a point where you wondered what the hell was going on there. Because there was a lot of people who were grandfathered in.
Yeah.
And there were some ladies working Main Street stores into their 70s and 80s. And it was...
I had a buddy in high school who was my age. When I was in attractions, he was in merch, and he was working at the Emporium. And he was 21, 22, working in the Emporium. And I'd swing through to see him, whatever, and be like, Josh, what are you doing, bro? Like, come hang out with all the young people. Let's, you don't need to be doing this.
Stores. Yeah, but once you're locked in, it's hard to get away.
Yeah. Oh, and I figured that. I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot easier to get my transfer out of vending than it was. I mean, it was phone calls every week,
They suck you in.
And I hated it. I hated outdoor vending.
When I rehired in 07, 06, it took me 6 months of constant whining to get my jungle knowledge back.
Really?
Well,
how long had you been gone?
About a year and a half. But what happened was that I was supposed to be trained on jungle, and...
Excuse me? Can we get... You want another one?
No, I'm actually finding the beer, but yeah.
Another PBR?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. I'll be back with more water as well. Did you want
Cool.
to grab that plate out of your way?
Yeah, I'm good.
That's a great pickle.
Would you like my pickle?
No,
I can include that.
I can leave that in the podcast?
Yeah.
Well, if only your wife knew about such things. It's a fantastic pickle, actually. But no, I had to beg and plead because when I was supposed to go back, my other trainee canceled, and rather than taking me and moving someone else into the other slot, they moved me into an empty slot over at Indy. Is the theory. The longer I go, the more I wonder if they just remembered who I was. And because, the first time I was around, me and the OG had a loose relationship. Kind of like the really hot roommate of your college buddy who was always around, and, you always were there oddly when she was getting ready for work for no reason.
You just happened to...
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very casual relationship with the script.
I had a very casual relationship with all of the people on the boat. I didn't like looking at them. Very much I liked, actually pretending like I was steering, but I wouldn't ever actually attempt to maneuver. I just didn't like looking at them unless... And, it seems like the more and more I think about it, there were a lot of women that would breastfeed on the Jungle Cruise. I don't know if this is becoming a theme.
It was that
other
way.
people notice it.
No, you know what? This is the first time it's been mentioned, but you're right.
Yeah.
And now let's preface this. The breast is a beautiful thing.
Yes, 100%.
Nipples are fantastic.
All nations race. Yes.
And children should have the right to breastfeed.
Why should we stop at children?
Yeah. Well, there are some people who don't. If you've seen Game of Thrones season 1, you know what I'm talking about.
I have. I'm a fan.
But I think you're right that when I look back on the jungle time, that the number of mothers who've delivered and then bring their children, I think it's because it's covered.
Yeah. Seated, comfortable.
10 minutes on a boat. It's about the right time. The other place that Tiki Room was the other one.
Yeah.
Tiki Room was a big breastfeeding mecca.
I was usually napping when I was in the show.
Yep.
Or trying to
it's
flirt.
It's hard to hit that 15-minute sleep mode.
Or trying to flirt with the chick at the Dole Whip stand to get a free Dole Whip float.
You wait till the end of the night,
yeah.
and you get it when they drain the machines.
Oh, genius.
Or the night when they left the cherries out, and we just sat there and munched on maraschino cherries all night.
It's genius. I don't know why I've never thought of that.
It was fantastic.
I was actually cleaning out my garage over the weekend, and I found my box of goodies, and I found my original outdoor vending shirt.
Yep.
My original Tiki shirt.
Mm-hmm.
The bright orange awesomeness. My jungle shirt, my thunder bandana, my complete canoe costume, which I don't know why I have the entirety of that costume.
There were some people in that costume that just, some people hit that costume better than others. But I remember you were there before the landlock, before it all went down.
I spent 2 summers on the canoes. 0 safeties on the canoes, by the way. And I should have never gotten any safeties on the canoes. On the jungle, I think I got 2 or 3. Should have probably gotten 7 or 8. And then the big one at Big Thunder, I obviously got disciplined for that one.
Let's preface that.
Oh yeah, so in the summer of 2004, I get cross-trained over to Thunder, get called in for a day shift, working the shift, end up breaking the ride for the 3rd time in a year. 2 trains collided on the main side of the station. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. We sent 3 Canadians to the hospital for about an hour and a half, but they were all fine, thankfully. I'm probably legally obligated to not talk about this, but I don't care. They can come find me.
Well, we do know that Disney Legal does listen to our podcast, so enjoy, guys. Pop some popcorn, some Orville Redenbachers, and enjoy.
Come find me. James Matthew Nerrie. I don't remember my employee ID number.
You could make it up, and that would have been
98521168. There you go.
There's some kid at home who's going to be getting a phone call.
Yeah. So broke the ride, shut it down for the 3rd time. No one seriously hurt, thankfully. Did a procedure out of order. Learned a tremendous amount about the ride. And it was actually really funny. So I have 2 older sisters. One worked in foods, and the other one actually worked on Thunder while she was in college. And the accident happened the day before her birthday. It was on July 8th in 2004 at about 5:04 p.m. But date I remember pretty good.
Kind of thing sticks in your head.
Yeah. Ryan Hertel, former recovering skipper, constantly asked me for an autographed copy of the OSHA report, naming me. I still owe that to you. Sorry, Ryan. You probably don't listen to this, though.
So really, who does is the bigger question.
Not enough people.
Not enough people. Yeah.
So next night was my sister's birthday. A bunch of her friends come over who worked on the ride with her too. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "What happened?" So I break it down for them, and they're like, "That should never happen. The ride system exists so that doesn't happen." Regardless, I was found, responsible, which was fine. I'm okay with it. I did something incorrectly.
Sure.
So it's my fault. But the ride system exists to correct human error, and the human exists to not let the ride do things it's not supposed to do. So the check and balance failed. So kind of the way I looked at it, trying to put a positive spin is, I kept someone from really getting injured down the road.
Yeah.
Because of the train, the train that got hit was ready to be dispatched. The train that was coming in was going 6 feet per second, so just about as slow as you can go on that track at that point. So they hit very gently. Andrea Feaster, who was down at Merge at the time, would probably say different because the trains basically collided over her head.
Yep.
And it was very loud. But yeah, no one's hurt. So the way I look at
Well,
it,
just Canadians. That doesn't really count.
Yeah, and that's what I say.
Only Canadians were injured in the making.
And they
of
weren't
that
even
moment.
really injured. They were fine and okay. I got a lot of overtime because I was at the park till like 3 a.m. talking to lawyers.
That's always good. They have to pay you.
Yeah, and it was a very good learning experience going forward in life about that.
About covering your ass.
Yeah, really knowing what you're doing, and
Which is maybe that's important. We're
sorry,
not sure.
let me rephrase about being comfortable with what you're
So
doing.
how's your new job at the nuclear power plant going?
Oh, it's going great. I just
Glowing. You get a glowing review.
I just got a new boss. His name's Homer Simpson,
Yeah.
maybe. He's very very good at handling
Yes,
nuclear
seems
waste.
more qualified than you are, which is kind of a sad, scary. Yeah, no, I pulled one safety in the time that I was there, and it was on Indy.
At Indy.
At Indy, and it was a bullshit safety.
Indy was made to break down.
But it was the ride that was never supposed to break down. That was what they sold it on.
Yeah.
Was that Indy would be the ride that would never break down, and then you've got these Jeeps coming into the station spewing hydraulic fluid like it's Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. There's just an awkwardness of that thing. There's so many things that go wrong. I don't know of any other ride that I can think of that has the downtime that Indy has.
No. I remember when it first opened in 95, being like every other kid of teenage years in Southern California had an annual pass because it was free babysitting for mom and dad.
Yeah. Well,
So
at the time, the park was empty all the damn time.
Yeah, because there was nothing new. I mean, the newest attraction before Indy was probably Star Tours or Splash Mountain, 91?
Star Tours was 85.
No,
Star Tours was in the 80s.
88.
88?
And Splash Mountain was 90 or 91, I think.
No, I don't know.
Anyway, nothing new came for a long time.
Yeah.
So that was the new big thing.
Indy was the start of the Renaissance period at Disney. Toontown, I guess, is the other.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count. There's nothing there that's worth it.
But I remember the ride would break down so often, and if you recall, when the ride first opened, they would hand out the cards that had the Maries written on them.
AT&T.
Choose wisely.
Yep.
Which is still there, interestingly, on the exit, just no AT&T logo.
Yep.
Which I find funny.
No one has any. Well, because it's from the movie. It's choose wisely.
Right.
From. I was waiting for that fourth movie to do really well, and then to overhaul the ride into a Crystal Skull-a-thon mania.
It was so sad, that fourth movie.
It was not good.
Anyway, so the ride broke down so often, and you had the translation trading cards. At one point in time, me and a couple of my friends could actually write and read Maries.
Just because you were in the ride so often that you were...
Yeah, and when you're 3/4 of the way through a 2-hour queue, you don't want to leave. We'll wait here while you're down because
fix the ride.
Right, and so we learned to do it. And I hope I couldn't anymore, but I know I have a stack of those cards somewhere in a box in my parents' garage, stashed away.
How close are you to your eBay sale? Because I've got some things. I've got a set of opening pins from California Adventure that are going to go up at some point. I have some very nice memorabilia that was legally obtained.
I have quite the collection. I have 2 of the final red hot rounds fired on the Jungle Cruise before they took away the guns in 03, before they switched to the brass ammunition. Mm-hmm. I have a ticket, a cast member only ticket from the 99 to 2000 switch. It was about so probably about 2 feet long and about 6 or 8 inches wide. Actual made entry ticket with no expiration date that's all gleamed out. So that's really only appreciated in value because in 2000 admission was probably like $45.
I can tell you because in 2003 it was $48.
Good God, so it's probably under 40.
Do you know what the current admission price is right now?
I know it just went up and actually went for the first time last week. And thankfully, my good friend Patrice Tuttle got me and my wife some comps, but I know it's in the 90s for
137
for a park hopper.
For a park hopper,
one day.
137.
God, I remember in junior high it was $21 for a summer annual pass.
Think of the number of beers we could be drinking for that $137.
I'm trying to think of the last time I had a $137 bar tab for me and my wife, and I can't come up with it. I don't drink as much as I used to out, but that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seattle beer is a lot cheaper up here. Let's talk
Really?
Seattle a little bit.
Yeah.
I grew up in Renton, but I've spent sparing amounts of time up
I
here
didn't
as
know
an
that.
adult. I went to Gonzaga. I was a Bulldog over in Spokane.
Lovely,
so,
lovely.
But I know Seattle well.
Big fan of Jack and Dan's.
Big fan of Jack and Dan's.
Who isn't?
I actually have met Stockton. He's a great guy. Was there during Gonzaga's heyday. I was there 89 to 92.
Okay.
So, and much like my Disney career, I dropped out of college. Just like at Disney, I dropped out before I should have gone into management, before, into doing more with my career at Disney. University was my high point. That was my big. But what all did you know, by the way, in the time you were there? Give me the rundown of all the training you had at different places.
So in outdoor vending, I was on the yellow team, which at the time covered popcorn, pretzels, and churros. Before they brought the turkey leg into the park, thankfully.
Hey, and the new one is the pork shank.
The pork.
They have a pork shank that is turkey leg-esque.
Okay.
But for our friends in the tribe, it's a little, doesn't really work for them.
Lovely.
But it's a slow roasted shank o' pork.
Is it actually pork? Because I'm under the impression that the turkey leg is actually not turkey; that it's actually ostrich.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
How would that work out?
Well, I don't think turkeys get that big. When's the last time you saw a turkey that had a leg the size of your forearm?
This is conspiracy theory, Mulder.
I mean, it's a rumor that I heard from somewhere.
I don't know. Ostrich. I think ostrich is a finer.
Maybe emu? Is it maybe emu?
Yeah, it might be emu.
Maybe emu. I know it's not.
It might be small white child.
That we dropped in the river and
marinate for a while
and was cooked in methane.
Marinate the jungle water. I never was able to light the methane on fire. I really wanted to do that at some point. The bubbles of methane in the morning.
It's very opportunistic. You had to get a brand new Bic lighter and strike it, and then tape it to a canoe paddle, and then wedge it on the catwalk dock so it reached out, because that was the spot that really got going, just beyond the catwalk in front of that little Trader Sam's home.
Yeah, see, what I would have done is I would have gotten one of the barbecue starter ones.
Okay.
The lighters, because those hold a little bit better.
Yeah.
I would have actually put it on a piece of long bamboo.
Ooh.
See, because you get the length there.
Yep.
And then you take a boat.
God, I hear that phrase too often.
You take a boat at front load and turn the engine on and gun it.
Yep.
And then all the methane rises up from the bottom of the decomposition at the bottom of the river where Hoffa's body is.
Okay, so they tie off the boat now, and that bothers me.
On the loading and unloading the boat?
Yeah, that bothers me a lot.
Okay. And
the safety issue I get, I can't count how many 8-hour shifts I spent at front load. 0 people in the water.
Yeah.
And, the phrase still exists, when you come to the park, you leave your brain in the parking lot at the time when I was back in the day before
there was a structure.
Yeah, before the fair across the entry plaza.
It finally has gotten good.
Yes, it was, I almost didn't recognize it when we walked in.
Yep.
A couple weeks ago, but it looked a lot better. They actually have some decent attractions.
Did you go on with a skipper,
No, went with my wife.
No, I mean when you were on Jungle.
No, the only person that I recognized at the entire ride was Randy Grant.
Yes.
Who unloaded me.
He's grandfathered in, actually. I think he's always going to be a fixture there.
Yeah.
That may have been the animatronic Randy.
No.
He's been there since the 80s.
Not animatronic. But he was the only person I recognized. The guy I went on with, his name was Nick.
Yeah. Well, it has been, 6 years.
8, actually.
8 years?
So I've been here for 6, but I quit to go to graduate school in 2005.
Okay, fine.
In Michigan.
Okay.
I went to Michigan State for graduate school for 2 years, so it's been
8 years.
8 years.
You can't expect that there's a lot of people still at that job.
No.
Sadly, it's probably a larger number than any other career that you could look at.
Yeah.
If you were working at Safeway and came back 8 years later, what percentage of people do you expect you would recognize?
And so many locations and movement.
Now when you go back, the 25,000 people who were there,
right.
It's now 40,000 people working in Anaheim.
Right.
Of those 25,000, how many are still there? It's probably a tenth, a 15%, whatever. It's a much higher retention rate. I will say this again, I'm not a Disney basher. It's a good company to work for as a whole.
Yeah.
There are a significant number of people who are still there that I recognize on a basis every time I go in. I have tons of respect for people who make it a career, and people who move up usually deserve it, and they're great people.
And like when I was home, had some folks over to the house who I hadn't seen in a while. Jeff Wheeler, who moved on to facilities 6 or so years ago. A long-time career.
I'm waiting for
attractions cast member.
I'm waiting for Jeff to hit the lottery or leave the park so I can interview him. That's the problem. Is I'm being respectful of people and their non-disclosure agreements, and waiting for some people to exit out so I can go have a fun time chatting with them.
And Patrice Tuttle, who's still in guest relations.
Yep.
And
I remember when she moved to being a plaid.
Yeah, and that was after I left. Brian Ellis is actually the only person I was real close with when I was there who is still in attractions. He doesn't spend much time at Jungle anymore, from what he tells me. But it's
a lot of parade lead.
Yeah, guest control parade lead. I think he spends a lot of time at trains now.
Yeah, so it's interesting seeing the people. Let's cover some things since, I think you and I had slightly different social groups, but I know you were there. You were there at the Luau's. Did you go to the Jungle Luau's?
At Rob Ray and Kat Thrallkill and Karis.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I may have attended one or two of those. I drank a lot.
So you don't remember it, so...
Yeah, there's one point in time when I was spending my summer on the canoes. Get to work about 10. Canoe shift start a little later, because why would, in God's good name, would you go on the canoe
first thing in the morning
or ever? I mean, I get it. It's old Disney, and I understand it, but it has really no place. People want to be entertained. They don't want to...
Well, but I'll make the argument that people who are coming maybe from Japan or from...
Yeah.
That if it's a piece of American culture that they may not have actually...
Anyway, so when I was working, the whole summer where I worked on canoes, I was going to summer school at Long Beach State, taking a class in the morning, get to work about 10, work until 6:30 or 7 or so, and then drive to the aptly named Tri-Skippa house, which I'm sure Adam Rotella will speak to you about later on this week.
Yes, I'm looking forward to my...
At one point in time, Adam climbed a tree at that house, and I talked him down in a drunken state. So get off 6:30 or 7, go over there. Brian would usually be getting off around the same time, along with Adam, and I can't remember the third person who lived there to make it the Tri-Skippa house. Anyway, so we would drink. Usually there was a tapped keg of some nature, and people would generally come over, and we'd drink till the wee hours, sleep on a couch, floor.
So it was basically college fraternity for non-college people.
Yeah, and I was in college, and I was an active member in a fraternity, so I enjoyed carrying that environment over to my summertime activities. And then I would wake up and get a fresh costume change and shower at work, and then...
Now, because you were on canoes, did you do the canoe races for Jungle?
I did. I captained a canoe team for, I think, 3 years.
We should check, because a lot of people don't realize that there's... one of the things about working for Disneyland is there's a lot of extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
There's a Jungle softball team that I know you were a part of.
Hit it! Exclamation point. Everyone is named Skip.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is still running.
Yep. And they had a good season last year.
They actually won. They won the title. I went to the semifinal game.
Yep.
Actually, which was won via forfeit because the other team didn't have enough females. And then they won the championship game.
Yeah. It's always great when we can win by default because other people didn't bring the girls.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, so we've got the softball team, but there's canoe races that have been a tradition since the 70s, I think it was.
Yeah, when my dad worked in the park in the late 60s and early 70s with a 3-year stint in Southeast Asia in the middle, he participated in the canoe races.
Yeah, so it's been around for a while, and it basically is you get up at a ungodly hour of the morning and come to the park at 4 or 5 in the morning when the sun is barely creaking out of the damn bed, and you paddle around the river to see how fast you can go. Is that an apt description of working off your hangover in the morning? Is that how that was?
Yes, and I can say I only vomited in the river twice.
Well, but that all adds up.
Yeah.
So... I never did the canoe races because I don't know. I had other things going on at the time, and I think when you're 30 and working at Jungle, it's the most awkward age because then your skipper's like you guys who are.
Who'd have thought that 30 is a more awkward age than 21?
Well, but the guys who are in their 50s will get invited to the softball league because it's not creepy that they're hanging around. But a guy who's 10 years older, you don't.
And actually, Jack Curlin,
I know.
was a beast.
Skipper Jack in his
my
50s.
final year on the rivers of America.
Skipper Jack, I got to tell you that he has the system down. Hugs from every pretty cute 21-year-old girl who's ever worked at Disneyland as often as he likes, and it doesn't come off creepy because he's a grandfatherly type. So
Accurate.
no, I think he has ulterior motives there.
Yes, he
So-
when he was paying me for the canoe races, I think it was a $80 entrance fee or whatever for the team. He hands me his $10 bill and he says, "Matt, I haven't had this much fun for $10 since the Philippines."
Oh,
Oh, Maurice, middle name Maurice. I like that guy.
he is the grandfather of the jungle. He reminds me a lot of Jonathan Winters. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was, there were a lot of extracurricular activities that both involved and didn't involve alcohol, which was always a good time. As we're kind of wrapping up, because you need to get back to work,
Yeah.
anything fun as far as celebrity stories? When someone says, "Tell me a jungle story," what's the thing that stands out in your mind? What's your or just at Disney in general? I mean, what are the fun times that you'll never take out of your memory banks?
The celebrities, I met Zach Braff and Dave Foley, who I both gave trips to. Didn't know that it was Dave Foley until we were done.
Was it Dave Foley in his swollen years?
No, I think he was still doing blow.
Okay, because
Yeah.
when he was doing celebrity poker, he got large.
Yeah. And they were both great. Talked to Zach Braff. I was at Unload and an evening shift and talked to him for quite a while before we put him on with somebody. Great dude, and he has a giant nose. I was
wondering where you're going with that.
It looks big in person, and on TV on Scrubs, but in person, it's just about as big as you think it gets. Dave Foley was great. Took Dennis Rodman and his female companion with 2 children around at the time.
Was it the Carmen Electra thing?
It was not Carmen. If it was Carmen, I would have led with. I took Carmen around with Dennis Rodman.
Got it.
But that was awkward. It was one of those. It was just the 4 of them. The plaid did not ride, and it was just very awkward.
I don't know if you were around. I had, and I've said this a million times on the damn show, but I had Rebecca Romaine on the boat.
Nice.
She was my favorite celebrity moment.
Didn't get too many celebrities, but no. The most fun I had was for the majority of my time I was a casual temporary, so I'd show up in early May when I got done with college, and work until the middle of August.
You were summer Matt.
Yeah, and I'd show up and I'd be wearing a bush hat, and you'd get these CRs that kind of got hired in February, April, May.
Yep. Wouldn't know who you were, but then you suddenly had everyone's respect.
Right, and I show up and Jared's like, "Oh, you're back? Front load, have fun." And they're getting all mad because I'm in a 3-man at front load and they're in a 4-man at unload. Like, wait, why is the new guy... Just be quiet.
It's okay.
Yeah. Dave Marley still gets a kick out of calling me rookie whenever he sees me.
Yep.
Which is few and far between. But the most fun I had was probably actually my first 2 years when I was still working nights because we had so many old timers, people like Alan Douglas and his now ex-wife Michelle, who worked there on nights because they wanted to work nights. Alan still works at DCA. And actually, Michelle lives up here. I might need to get you in contact with her to maybe do an interview. Do you know her at all? Have you ever met her?
I don't. It doesn't ring a bell. I mean, I've met so many people that...
Yeah.
We're working on some skips from the 60s.
Nice.
It's going to be kind of awesome. I got a guy who hired in 72 who I'm taping with in a week and a half.
Oh, that's awesome.
So...
but yeah, my first 2 summers when I cared a whole lot less about efficiency, which seemed to be the way I went in my later years when it became a job.
At the time, you didn't need to do efficiency because I was there on a Wednesday in May, and the upper queue was all the way open.
Yeah.
That never happened.
No. I mean, when
Jungle got popular.
Good. I mean, that's great. But I think when the increased safety measures, which are nice,
slows down the queue. Yeah.
And it's so much slower.
Let's be honest. It's not nice and good. It's pedantic
it's nice
pushers.
that the rides got popular.
It's nice they got popular.
Yeah.
The safety features are abysmal.
Right.
Yes, there were lawyers involved, and I'm sure that they did their research. It slows the ride down.
Yep.
over the course of the ride, the number of accidents. The reason why the damn ticket prices are going up is because of the number of people who are lawsuit happy, including cast members, who bog the whole thing down for everyone. it's atrocious.
Yeah, I'm still anticipating. When I went and got told that they were tethering the boats and that kind of deal, I was like, I was anticipating more of a pirate ride system, or like Small World, where it's a load and unload conveyor that's actually dispatched. And the way it is seems just very stopgap until they go down for a major rehab and they can actually install a dispatch system.
Yeah.
I've thought that for a long time.
And then you add staffing costs.
Right.
I think it's fine the way it is. I think what they needed was a pusher on the far side of the boat that would push the boat into the dock and hold it there. And then release and dispatch from that point.
Kind of like on the flume rides at like Six Flags.
Yeah, so basically you pull the boat up to front load. Your presence brings up a bar in the front of the boat that restricts forward movement, and then you have a sidebar that pushes it in to the dock to hold it there, so the boat stays sturdy.
Yep.
And then you have one of the loaders. The front load will just release the boat when the all clear is given. It takes too damn much time the way it is now, and the boat's under power, which is an issue. The boat shouldn't be under power when it's loading. It's wear and tear on the engine. It just doesn't make any sense. But, they do their research. I'll give them the credit. They're scientists. Science.
Like I said, I think it's a stopgap measure because something needed to be done quickly. Because I guess someone was injured, which in years and years and years hadn't happened. But it happened, so a measure has to get taken.
But here's the thing: is people get injured all the time based upon their own stupidity.
Yeah,
it's not because of the ride. It's because people don't use any damn common sense when they're at the park. And you have to, to go for the lowest common denominator.
I do enjoy the mind the gap sign at load, which it makes me laugh. I wish they would have put the
traditional British one.
Yeah, I think that would have been great. Not themed super great, but I think people would have gotten a kick out of that. But it is what it is at this point.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's and the questions. Well, one of the things I ask everyone is, do you see for the 100th anniversary in 2055, is the Jungle Cruise still there, and is it in its current form? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's such a tremendous amount of space that I don't know what they would turn it into. Like you said, the popularity seems to have increased. I don't know what their actual daily ride capacity is anymore.
Yeah, well, Avatar Land, basically,
Oh,
just
God.
make it an Avatar ride-through boat ride.
If they took that out, I'd...
Okay over here?
Yeah, fine.
If they turn the Jungle Cruise into an Avatar ride, I will revolt.
That was actually the April Fool's joke this year from Disney.
Good, great.
Where they had the hippos colored green, and it was pretty funny.
No, I mean, it's evolved, from its initial deal, adding in some stuff and taking stuff away. But when you really look at it, the core of what it started at in 55 is still there.
Yeah.
When it went to a narrations attraction in the 90s, I think that was, if I see a change, I think I see it going that way more to a ride operated almost. I mean, I could almost see it going to a flume type attraction.
Yep.
To correct some of that safety efficiency problems with a hired performer.
You have the tip on this?
With a hired performer.
I think we've argued for a long time that you need to have some level of
casting.
Well, casting and also training people how to do the damn ride.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're missing out on it. Is you don't have, people being taught how to be funny and how to interact and perform. Hold on, we got a bus going by. UPS.
I take the bus to work now.
Seattle.
Weird. It's weird.
Seattle.
Yeah.
It strips away all your masculinity and then gives you a large truck to compensate.
Yeah.
So, and I think, I guess the kind of other stock question that I threw out there is, I think I know the answer because I know you. Jungle gets in your skin.
Yeah.
And have you had your shots is what I'm trying to say to get it out?
Nope. So I've been married for 3 years. We had a very small wedding. It was in our backyard in West Seattle. We took what I call a party bus to Palisade, a restaurant in Magnolia. And on the way back, with everybody nice and oiled up, I gave a trip on the way back. And everyone, my close family and my wife's close family, all very active and enjoyable Disney families. So everyone got a kick out of it. It was great. It'll never be gone. And now that I can keep my beard, I might go back.
Well, Seattle already has the Jungle Cruise 2.0. We have the Ducks.
The Duck Tour.
The Duck Tour, which is ripped off joke for joke from the Jungle Cruise.
Accurate. Very accurate
There
statement.
is more jungle jokes told there than on the current Jungle Cruise.
There's jungle jokes told on Southwest Airlines. You name it, you're going to hear a corny pun somewhere about something. I still use it in my daily life.
Yep.
I'll see a patient and, it's been a pleasure having you. I hope you've really enjoyed being had today. And they just don't get it.
Yep.
And that's exactly what it used to be. And I'm not doing it for the laugh from them. I'm doing it for the laugh from me.
Well, and that's how jungle is best served, is when we did it for ourselves and when we made the other skips laugh and entertained them. That was when it worked so well, because the guests got the energy.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't get a joke or two, and the fact that there were different styles, the fact that you could go and you could have a Sherry doing one kind of a thing, and a Maynard doing a different thing, and Benny doing a different thing. And every joke, every setup and every group of things was different. We did that shit to entertain each other.
Yeah.
And
no
you know
doubt.
what? It's great, yes, that it's nice that they prune the tree every once in a while and make the things happen that need to happen. But the reality of the end of it is that, we were there having a great time and the guests were laughing along.
Yeah.
And very few times, statistically, someone was going to be offended.
Yeah.
And statistically,
I hope so.
Yeah, and statistically, someone was going to trip and fall in the boat and break their damn leg.
My favorite joke, and you could only use it once a year, is on 4th of July. Very routine, low joke. Anyone from out of the country, and you prayed on 4th of July that you got someone from Britain, from England.
Yep.
Because the jokes write themselves at that point. Hey, thank you. Thanks for losing. Happy 4th of July. And it was funny because it was almost meant to offend, but it was so funny to everyone else who wasn't from Britain. Now, if you got a boat full of them, you'd probably want to jump over the side. But I'd like to think you'd have the amount of savvy to not break it out at that point.
And British people have a nice dry humor, so
Yeah.
they would get it anyway.
I think I got flipped off once or twice, but well worth it and all in jest.
And the good thing is you were there every summer, so you didn't have to worry about, parsing through the rest of those dry months to get to the 4th of July, so...
No, I'd show up, and it was great, and I loved it. And if I didn't love Seattle as much as I do, I'd probably try to make a comeback. And I was really happy when we went that the trip, we only went on it once.
Yep.
And my wife wanted to go on again. I'm like, nope, we went on it. I had a good trip.
It's perfect.
I saw my boots in the ticket office upstairs. I'm good to go.
Yep. And that's a perfect place for us to wrap it up. Sorry you can't be with us tomorrow night for our great Seattle Skipper Fest. It's our first annual gathering of all the skippers that live in Seattle. So there's 3 of us other than you. So that's going to be a lot of fun. May make this an annual tradition as my fiance is in love with the city. Mainly because the beer is better than in California.
Yeah, I believe.
And the public transit and the housing prices and the weather. So there's a lot of pluses.
I believe we're in the top 3 nationally in microbrews.
Yeah, microbrews is awesome up here. We hit the Issaquah Brew House.
Oh, nice.
The Rogue
nice.
Ales.
Yeah.
So that's the place to hit. We're going to have it's a dark chocolate stout brownie with a chocolate stout reduction sauce over the top.
What?
Yeah, it's badass.
Are you guys staying out in Snoqualmie?
We're actually out in North Bend, and then we're going to be on Lake Quinault.
Okay.
In the rainforest for 3 nights in a little cabin.
Ooh.
And I plan on telling Jungle Cruise jokes until my fiance wants to punch me.
There's a really cool bar in West Seattle. Are you taking the ferry over?
Yeah.
In West Seattle, there's a bar called the Beverage Place.
Uh-huh.
It's right at California and Fauntleroy. And it is awesome. They have a really, really good beer selection on your way to or from. Mm-hmm. Might be a nice little stop.
Cool beans. Well, Matt, it's always a pleasure.
For sure.
Forever and ever, 8 years or so. But the joys of Facebook and reconnecting with people who you haven't seen forever.
For sure.
So, and everyone else, just to give you quick reminders, hit us up on our Twitter page, Twitter feed at Skipcast. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Jungle Cruise, CREWS. If you're a skipper or know a skipper who'd like to appear on the program, give us an email at junglecruise@gmail.com. And for everyone else out there in the wilds of internet land, Kungaloosh, and we'll see you guys next time.